Friendship is supposed to feel safe, nourishing, grounding. But what happens when a friendship starts leaving you feeling anxious, drained, insecure, or even ashamed of yourself?
If you are consistently walking away from time with a particular person, feeling low,
In a world where everyone online is suddenly a narcissist and every uncomfortable interaction is labeled as toxic, how do we actually know the difference between a genuinely unhealthy relationship and a relationship that's simply triggering something unresolved inside of us?
well, discomfort is a massive gift. Is your body responding?
In this episode, I interview clinical psychologist, hypnotherapist, energy healing teacher, and best-selling author Eilat Aviram, whose work on self-love has helped thousands of people reconnect with their inner truth.
When you feel reluctance or resentment, pay attention.
We explore toxic friendships through the lens of the nervous system, trauma, boundaries, self-trust, and emotional patterns. We talk about why some people repeatedly find themselves in painful dynamics, why empaths often override their instincts, how narcissistic dynamics actually work, and why discomfort may be one of the most important signals our body gives us. This episode is about learning how to listen to yourself again. Because as Eilat says, the real question is,
If I loved myself, what would I choose to do now?
you're the self-love lady. I want to ask you about toxic relationships, particularly friendships, and what is happening inside me or inside a person when we are choosing to keep or engage in a relationship that we perceive as toxic.
I think the beautiful thing you're saying that I'm the self-love lady is because I teach self-love, right? And I teach self-loving decision making. And if you're making decisions that are leading to situations that you're not happy with or that leave you feeling used or not seen or just unhappy, it's an actual skill set to make choices. And it's a skill set to have relationships. And it's a skill set to self-care. So the really good news is that it's something we can learn. And often if you don't realize that someone's toxic or you know someone's toxic, but you choose to stay, you probably have learned that skill set somewhere.
What would you say is a toxic friendship?
But if you think about a friendship, what is the point of a friendship? It's supposed to be a mutually satisfying, beneficial experience, right? And so if you are consistently, not sometimes, consistently walking away from time with a particular person, feeling low, feeling like you've been judged, feeling insecure, if you feel like your energy has just been drained, if you're doubting yourself, all of those are signs that that relationship is not healthy for you. Because think of the word toxic, it means poisonous, right? So if something is poisonous for you, you will have some sort of effects. So you really do need, is it toxic or is it a tonic?
Okay, so this is where I struggle a little bit, because how do I know that it's not my own stuff? Like, let's say I have an issue with my body image and I'm insecure about, I perceive myself to be fat, and then I think when somebody else is talking about body image stuff that they are referring to me. So it's a direct attack on me when maybe the other person doesn't mean that at all. And I walk away from that interaction feeling like they made a dig at me when it had nothing to do with me. It was just their own stuff.
So how do you know when it's toxic and how do you know when it's just triggering for you?
Yes.
I think you'd probably see toxic friends will be toxic across the board, usually. Generally, you'll be able to identify somebody as toxic in a friendship or as a boss or as a parent or as your sibling or as a romantic relationship. Usually it will be somebody who is not very considerate of you. They'll be much more involved with themselves. They will probably make much of the conversation either about themselves, or if it's about you, there'll be an edge of they're putting you down, they're judging you, they're baiting you. This is quite a general thing. Obviously, it gets quite subtle. If other people don't find that person upsetting or toxic, then there's definitely something for you to look at and go, what is it about this person that triggers me? And I think that's the main question anyway that you and I are going to be discussing, because I'm saying that I teach self-loving decision making, which means that you're always needing to pause in the moment of any choice you make. And that choice can be, do I feel like seeing this person? Do I want to leave early? Do I still want to be friends with this person? You do need to check in with yourself. At the end of the day, what's toxic or not toxic for you, you are the only one who can know that.
Is there ever an answer that goes something like, well, this is not necessarily a toxic relationship or a toxic friendship. It's just a friendship where people are interacting and people are being people, and it's just an imperfect one, because no friendships or relationships are ever perfect. And how do I know that it's one where I might be losing out by labeling it toxic? I feel like walking away is a very easy answer. It's an easy and a difficult answer. It's difficult because, it's obviously painful, and you did see something in the person that you wanted to be friends with. But it's also easy because it doesn't acknowledge that the other person is human and you are human, and no relationships are going to be perfect.
True.
And it's so easy I see that on Instagram so much, like you just label, this is the year I'm going to walk away. But if you walk away from everyone, then you're not going to have any friends left.
Yeah.
So how do I know that it's really a toxic relationship? I mean, you did describe that, but a bit more like in the nuance, or whether it's a friendship that I want to maybe work on and fix.
You know what I love about what you're saying and the way that you're asking it, and you haven't said it explicitly, maybe you did, but I feel like what you're asking is, if I walk away, I'm also giving up an opportunity for self-development, right? If you're with a situation or a person who triggers you and it really is your issue, like you were speaking about the weight thing. If you always avoid anything that mentions your weight, you're going to be avoiding a lot of stuff. And you're never going to have the opportunity to heal a place that's obviously a sensitive area for you. So if you are a short, or height challenged human and you hate short jokes, or you hate being around people who make you feel shorter, you're going to be avoiding a lot of people. If you're insecure about any part of yourself, you're going to land up avoiding things as opposed to dealing with them and growing and becoming more whole and stronger. So I think, in a way, a short answer to your complex question is, you're not looking for once-off instances. If your friend's having a bad day, or if they've lost their parent and they're having a patch where they're really in a funk and they don't have capacity to help you, or they're overwhelmed with work, or they have financial stress and they treat you not as considerately as you'd like, or they're quite snappy with you during that period of time, that's just relationships. That's humans being humans. But if you generally still feel loving of the person and you understand they're in a tough patch, that's fine, and that's something to work through. But what you're looking for is patterns. If somebody consistently treats you in a derisive way, they consistently bait you, you find out that they're speaking behind your back, they're saying stuff behind you that they wouldn't say to your face. You try and have conversations to resolve an issue with them, and they won't talk to you, or they make you feel like you're crazy. They gaslight you. They go, no, it's nothing wrong. No, you're just imagining it. You must be having a bad day. When you consistently walk away from that person feeling not good, that we could define as toxic. And I also don't think we should be so quick to jump and go, this is toxic, and label it. It's just this, maybe, maybe a kinder way of saying it is, this is not good for me. this is not serving me. This is not nourishing me. Therefore, I will remove myself from it. Not, you're toxic, I'm going to ghost you.
Or I'm going to cancel you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's toxic in itself.
Yes, that's true. Well, that actually leads me to my next question, which was, how do I avoid being the toxic friend?
Friendship is a mutual thing. It's a give take. It's a you and me. You get to talk and I get to talk. I ask you how you are. You ask me how I am. I actually care about what you're saying to me. You care about what I'm saying to you. If you find that you are bored with what somebody is saying and you don't really care, and you're asking them out of obligation or politeness, but actually you're sort of going yawn, yawn inside, you have to ask yourself what you're doing with that person. I think probably if you are being the toxic one, I would imagine that you feel quite unsatisfied with the relationship too. When we perceive danger, we get tense. So you asked about what is the body actually showing us. The autonomic nervous system goes into fight flight, and it does it in degrees. So when we say the words like danger in a relationship, it can sound a bit extreme. Or if I'm speaking about fight flight and we're talking about a friendship, it does sound a little bit severe. But your body does respond in various degrees to danger. And the danger could be, that person just said something mean. That was nasty, or I feel judged, or I don't feel emotionally safe right now. Your nervous system will behave like that buck. So your skin will tighten, your breathing will become a little shallower, your muscles will tighten. You'll become hyper alert. Essentially, your body is preparing to either fight off something or run away from it, or freeze if things are really bad. You know, that feeling where you're like, oh, I don't actually know what to do, what to say right now. Sometimes that's your body that actually gone into a freeze state. So if you are attuned to your body, you can pick up those signs, and we will normally feel it as, oh, I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable, or those signs of stress or anxiety or tension, or, oh, I'm feeling a bit hot. Oh, there's no air in here. I'm feeling uncomfortable. Something about this is making me uncomfortable. So our bodies do pick it up quite quickly. And it is our nervous system giving us a signal that something about this situation is not completely safe.
That's amazing. Except, what if I have social anxiety?
Well, then it's your system telling you that anytime you're around people it's
that's
unsafe.
not safe. Okay.
That you perceive it as unsafe. So again, it's that perception thing of what's okay for you might not be okay for someone else. But so for you, social situations might be,
yes,
and your fight flight kicks in. For someone else, they'd be completely relaxed.
If I am with someone who is making me feel this way, I wonder what is going on for the other person, that they are behaving this way. And I wonder if just becoming curious about that might ease the tension a little bit and dissolve some of that poison or toxicity.
It depends.
Okay.
Classic psychologist answer.
Yes.
It depends. It's all about the context. If that person tends towards narcissism, clinical narcissism, what I mean by that is it's all about them, then you asking them more about them is just going to make the situation more of what it already is. Does that make sense?
Yes.
If the other person is behaving that way because something's wrong, they're upset. Sorry.
That's okay.
If they're upset, if something's been happening in their life and you are able to, or if they have social anxiety and you're able to ease them into feeling more comfortable, then it will help. But I again want to say this conversation isn't about a once-off situation where you're with someone and it makes you feel uncomfortable. Although if you feel properly uncomfortable with someone and the first time you meet them, you should probably take that very seriously. Never, ever override that or ignore that. I'll come back to that just now if we need to, because there's some amazing studies about that. what we're looking for is patterns. If somebody consistently makes you feel that way, if somebody always behaves that way or almost always, that's the thing that's problematic. Not once off here and there. That's just humans. Does it make
Yes, absolutely. I think what you said about when you meet somebody the first time and you feel uncomfortable, that's really interesting, because I've had a few friendships where the first time I met the person, I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to be friends with this person, or I need to be aware of this person. And then subsequently, we went on to be very good friends. But the friendship, in all instances, there weren't many, but in all instances, ended. And my initial impression of the person was correct.
So I like to say that people come with a pamphlet. People arrive with, and they hand you a pamphlet. This is who I am. This is how I am. These are the problems you and I are going to have. People do this with romantic relationships all the time. And I always ask questions in my therapy space when somebody says they've met someone and they're obviously, excited about this person. I ask them a lot of questions right at the start, because we get the pamphlet at the beginning. I'll explain what I mean in a moment. And we read the pamphlet, and then we completely ignore it. And we carry on as though we never got the information. I like to ask people right at the start, what do you foresee the problems with this relationship might be? And they are so accurate. They can tell me right at the start, I think, I don't know, I'm going to make stuff up. I think his mother might be an issue. I think she's a little bit clingy. I think they won't get along with my friends. They can tell you right at the beginning. And then they go forward anyway. They have the whole relationship, and it ends for the reasons they identify at the beginning. Like what you've just said about the friendships.
And I guess the same thing applies to friendships as well.
100%. You do know. And this is what I teach. This is my huge thing, because self-loving decision-making is about trusting what you know. And this whole toxic friendship, relationship conversation is about trusting what you know. It really is. I mentioned just now there's really interesting research on people picking up something about someone else in a book called What We Can Learn from Psychopaths. So if anyone wants to follow up on that, go ahead. They quoted this study where they wanted to see if psychopaths are identifiable, if we can pick up if there's somebody, in our space that has that tendency. But to begin with, they were interested in how psychopaths pick their victims. Why do they choose that person and not that person? Why could this person walk right past, but that one will be targeted? And so they did quite a horrifying study, which is that they collected a group of, they did it in two parts. They collected convicted psychopaths, and they asked a whole lot of regular folk to walk down a corridor. And they videoed them walking down a corridor. Then they showed those videos to the convicted psychopaths, people who are like very clinically and criminally psychopathic. And they asked them to identify which of those people they would victimize, who would they pick as a victim. With disturbing accuracy, they picked the people who have trauma in their history.
Wow. Okay, but I have a question there, because don't we all have trauma in our history?
They picked people who would be over-empathic, who would not be able to set boundaries very well, who would not listen to themselves.
Wow.
So they did it with the clinical psychopaths and saw that they are very accurate. Then they also did it with university students. They assessed people to see people who tend towards narcissistic or particularly psychopathic tendencies. So if they had traits of that, they asked those people also to watch videos. They did the same thing, and they were also very accurate. So then they became curious, and they thought, well, can the victims, the empaths, can they recognize a psychopath if they met them? And the answer was yes. And it's in response to your question about the body. The body recognized it. There's something in our brain that registers some level of interactive relationship danger. They had the hairs at the back of their necks going up. They got the goosebumps. They had a feeling of discomfort and tension, like they just wanted to pull away. Those were real and they were accurate. That's why I wanted to come back to this, because it's so important.
But like, tell me, is it something about trauma that makes you ignore that? And maybe the reason that empaths get into these relationships with psychopaths is because everybody else is like, whoa, that's a psychopath, I should stay away. But the empath is like, oh, I'm sure they're just nice people. And
they had a hard childhood. Oh.
I'm that person. I'm that person. I'm literally that person. I'm like, nobody's evil and we should.
Yeah. Yes, you should always give them a chance. Really, really important. Also, in line with this, how do you know if somebody is or is not toxic? Watch somebody's behavior. Don't listen to their words. Often people's words will conflict their behavior. They'll say something and it sounds so good and you believe it because you're a words person and you want to believe the best in everybody. They speak about spiritual bypassing. Have you heard that term? So spiritual bypassing is when you see someone's bad behavior as a human and what they're doing, and then you say, oh, but they have such potential.
Yes.
And you create a bridge over their bad behavior and their bad choices, and you make excuses for them. So that's another way. But if people are saying nice things, but they're behaving badly, which one do you give more weight to? Their behavior. Someone will show you. Watch how someone treats children, treats dogs, treats anyone that they think is less than them. Watch how they talk to the checkout person at a supermarket. Watch how they speak to waiters and waitresses. That's a big cue. If somebody is rude to a waiter or waitress, pay attention.
Tangentially, but related, is that what about trauma makes us that way, that we don't listen to ourselves? I guess this goes into the self-love question, right? Yeah. Do we stop loving ourselves when we have trauma?
We have to go into my definition of self-love for that.
Okay.
Because I have a slightly unusual, maybe, definition of self-love. And I have a community. I run a community for people to learn to love themselves more, as you know. And it's the kind of people who are drawn to a community like that are often people who have been taught in some way to not listen to themselves. And usually it's because it can be severe trauma, but it can also just be sort of a family who doesn't listen to you, or who tells you you're talking rubbish, or who doesn't have capacity to hold you emotionally in the way you need. Doesn't mean your family's wrong and bad. It just means that you didn't get what you needed to be able to trust yourself. So my definition of self-trust is meeting your needs. That's it. It's so simple. And not something we are taught.
Okay, so many questions.
You see? This is where we heat up. Go.
So what if I have conflicting needs? I need to be friends with this person because we have this amazing history, and I know that she can be different, she can be lovely. And I think you'd also see that in narcissistic relationships, right? Like, I know that this person can be so amazing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, so I need that person in my life. And at the same time, I also need to not feel judged and like shit when I hang out with this person.
So what I'm hearing you say is you have a need for connection and friendship.
Yes.
It's not necessarily with this person who makes you feel bad. You do have conflicting needs. You have a need for harmony. You have a need for respect. You have a need for mutual liking and mutual consideration. Those needs are not being met. You also have a need for companionship. You have a need for maybe their humor, their bubbliness, or all the good things about them. Those needs are being met. But at the end of the day, we do have a hierarchy of needs. If your if you spend time with this lively, bubbly person who also puts you down, drains your energy, and makes you feel insecure, are you coming out of your engagements with this person in the green or in the red, in the black or in the red? Is it sucking you dry?
What is the self-loving answer to that?
So if self-love is meeting your needs, then the first thing is to be aware that you have needs and to make them legitimate. You are allowed to actually consider your needs and meet them, which is something many of us were not taught. We were taught the opposite. We were taught, put everybody else ahead of you, make sure everybody's fine, you come last, put your needs last. We're taught that in our families, we're taught that in our cultures, we're taught that in our religions. It's how it is. It's actually seen as something very esteemed and laudable if you are someone who puts everybody else ahead of yourself. And there can be amazing things about that if putting other people first is nourishing to you. But if it's coming at your cost and you feel angry, you feel depleted, you feel resentful, then after a while, that's actually going to become toxic for the relationships you're in.
Okay.
You can make good relationships toxic if you keep giving, if you keep ignoring your own needs in a relationship. You're going to become resentful.
Wow, I love what you're saying, because you're saying that if I am not loving to myself in the way that I relate to others, then I can, just by doing that, I can turn this perfectly fine relationship, I can turn it toxic.
Yes.
I can make it something that's toxic to me. It's poisonous to me, but actually it's not the other person who did that. It's I did that. I did it.
I often say that loving yourself and listening to your needs is the least selfish thing you can do.
Yeah.
We're taught it's selfish, but actually it's not, because also if I'm not meeting my needs, then I'm coming to you in our relationship and expecting you to meet my needs for me.
I think it's also inauthentic. It's like pretending to be okay with something that you're not okay with.
That's true, but most of us are not aware of that, because that makes it sound like
meditated.
Yeah. And it's not. Most of us are so used to pushing ourselves aside. We're like, oh, I feel uncomfortable. Oh, never mind. She's very nice. I'm just gonna, he never pays. I always pay. You know what? It's fine. I have money. I like being generous. But that happens. Remember, I said it's a pattern. You've got to watch for the patterns. That happens again, and it happens again, and it happens again. And there is resentment building up in you. When you feel reluctance or resentment, pay attention. That's not something to override. It's telling you that the give-take is out of balance, but that's not their fault. Your job is to look after you. And if you're not doing that by setting the boundary and saying, you know what, this time I always pay, you pay this time. Or how about we split the bill? I'm not happy always having to pay. That's on you.
Let's say something like this has happened, because I'm sure many of us have been in this situation where we've been overly self-sacrificial and we've turned a relationship toxic. Now, I see this, but I want to fix it because I still like this person and I want to reverse this dynamic. I want to start from scratch. But I don't want to just leave this relationship and go somewhere else, because friends are difficult to find. I know as someone who's moved countries and moved cities, and it's really hard to find good friends. And maybe I realize that, it's my fault that this relationship is this way. And I want to
never one person.
Okay.
It always takes two to do a dance.
Okay. So fine. And how would I approach this?
If you and I are dancing a tango and I stop dancing the tango and I start dancing a waltz, are you going to be able to continue dancing a tango?
No.
Your option is either to stop, to get off the dance floor, or to start dancing a waltz with me. Then you'll see if you like it or you don't.
But if we're doing the tango and now suddenly I decide to do the waltz, like that's so jarring for you, because you were like, we're doing the tango.
But if you're not enjoying the tango, I'm liking this. But if you're not enjoying the tango and you tell me I don't really like the tango or I can see that you're out of breath. I can see that your ankle is hurting. Why should you have to continue dancing the tango?
I struggle with being tactful. So if you can just tell me a very practical way that someone would approach this, how would I approach my friend to start doing the waltz now?
Okay, so just on a very kind of, let's stay with the tango on a really practical level. If you're dancing a tango and you suddenly stop, that would be weird and rude and potentially trip the other person and make them feel like an idiot because they'll still be dancing the tango. And you're like, just looking at them. Ideally, you would say to them, at the end of this number, I've had enough. I need a break. I'm happy to continue dancing a waltz if you want to, but otherwise I need to take a break from the tango. I've realized I don't enjoy a tango. I prefer less dramatic dancing. That person has a choice of how they want to react. They can shame you. You see, that's where you'll see a narcissist or toxicity coming out. Because if you set a boundary, this is a very, very important point, by the way. You were asking me, how do you recognize? A way to test, if you need to test a friend, if you're wondering, listening to this and you're thinking, I wonder if that relationship is toxic. The way to test it neatly is to set a boundary and see how they respond. So when they ask you for something, not something silly, do it properly. If it's really, you say, no, I don't want to, or I don't want to pay, or I want to stop doing bowling, I'd rather go to a movie, and watch how they respond. If they are able to work with you and accommodate you, that's not toxic. But when we're leaning towards clinical narcissism and clinical psychopathology, that's not, that person's going to say, they'll shame you. Why would you do that? You're always letting me down. You just want it to be your way. No, I don't want to do that. No, I'm not going to do it. It's very interesting. So it's a sneaky test for a relationship, is to actually set a boundary that's an honest boundary for you, and see if they can flow with it. If they can flow with it, it's probably safe. If they can't flow with it, that's a big red light.
Like, I think, like, let's say we always meet close to my house. And I mean, it's a silly example, but
it's not. It's a very real example.
We always meet close to my house. But then if my friend says to me, hey, can we meet close to my house this time? And then suddenly I realize, like, oh my God, we have always met close to, like, I was genuinely I didn't think about it much. And yeah, sure. Like, sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah, like, let's meet.
That's then you're not the toxic one there. Okay.
Yes.
Breathe. You're okay there. You were just not aware. You were not aware of the give take.
Yes.
You weren't kind of actively considerate of making sure it's equal and fairly shared.
Yeah.
But if you were to say, oh no, that's really inconvenient for me.
Yeah.
That would be a red flag. So you asked, if somebody has trauma, do they then override themselves? Do they not listen to themselves? Do they not love themselves?
Yeah.
Trauma does predispose people to checking out of their body.
Yeah.
And when we're saying that the signs and the alertness comes in the body, then it would make sense that if your body's telling you something, but you're sort of floating somewhere about it. In the American South, the Southern women, there's a classic insult. They say, God bless. And it sounds so nice and so sweet.
Yeah.
It's a nasty comment. It's kind of like, oh, shame, look at you.
Oh, yeah. And that would be the South African equivalent, right?
Exactly.
Shame. Oh, shame.
Like, oh,
shame.
Look at her. So you will know it because of how your body responds to it. So don't ignore what your body is telling you.
And why are they doing that in that moment? Are they doing it because it makes them feel better about themselves?
Well, they are disconnected from themselves. You have to be. They're disconnected from their heart. They're disconnected from their own humanness. And usually, I mean, one of the core dynamics in narcissism, in clinical narcissism, is that somebody's unable to tolerate their internal flaws. So if they believe some deep hidden part of them has a belief that they're broken or flawed in some way. And they feel like if anybody was to see that or find that out, they would die. Not just dramatically. It's a psychic thing that you feel like that would be the end of you.
Wow.
And so you have to defend that at all costs.
Yeah.
And so there's a certain, we speak about there's different kinds of narcissists. You have the bear and you have the snake. You see them coming a mile away. Or it's a bull, I think actually a bull or bear. Both of that energy of like, here I am, pay attention to me, no one else exists but me. But then you have the snake who seems all right and quiet until you step too near and then they jab you. But in both instances, if you come too close to revealing their flaw, they have to kill the intruder, which means they'll take you down. They'll blame you, they'll shame you, they'll dismiss you, they'll walk away from you, they'll cancel you, they'll ghost you.
That makes so much sense.
So they're unable to tolerate that, but they're not doing it consciously. But they are doing it. So we need to be careful of just because you understand why someone is being a toxic person or hurtful or harmful, there's understanding and then there's excusing.
Right.
They're not the same thing. And if you understand why someone is the way they are, you can compassionately care about the fact that they are hurting, whether or not they're aware they're hurting, and you can still call them out. You can still make them accountable. You can still put them to task.
I think that the understanding helps a lot because in the past, when I've been in unhealthy friendships that are hurtful to me, I've often blamed myself.
And they would have helped you do that.
Yes. And I felt like, what is it about me that allows someone to behave this way with me? So I'd make it very personal. That is something wrong with me that allows you to feel like it's okay to say this to me, or maybe I did something.
Well, you didn't do something to deserve it.
Yes.
Never.
Yes.
Never, 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 never.
Yeah.
But it's possible that you either missed the social cues where you saw that, where you didn't see that this person was behaving badly or this person had a tendency to be mean and nasty. So maybe you missed that. Or when they did it, you somehow rationalized it inside of yourself and made excuses for them. So you didn't do anything wrong to make it happen. But if it happens and it happens consistently in a relationship, you are danced. That's the tango. So we're coming, yay, we're closing another loop.
Okay, yeah.
If you participate in the dynamic of them being mean to you and you keep coming back for more,
yes,
you are 100% responsible for your 50% of the relationship.
Okay, got it. Yeah, makes sense. Do you have any thoughts on what's happening from a metaphysical perspective in this toxic dynamic?
When somebody needs to shame someone else or put someone else down, they are usually trying to make themselves feel better. Everything we do because we're trying to feel better. We think that we will feel better in the doing or the having of it. So they are putting you down or judging you or shaming you because they think that doing that is going to make them feel maybe better about themselves, less insecure, whatever the case may be. But if we bring it into energy and metaphysical terms, each one of us is connected to our own source of energy. We are, I suppose, if you're a light bulb, you are connected to the main source of electricity. And we're all connected through our own sources. I'm not connected as a bulb to you as a bulb and then to the source. I have to have my own direct connection. And that would be life energy. In Ayurvedic, they call it prana. In Chinese medicine, they call it qi. In the Japanese healing, they call it ki. So there is an actual life energy that is measurable, scientifically measurable, around us in every living thing. They have Kirlian photography where you can actually take a photograph of something's energy, of a human's energetic biomagnetic field around them. So we live in an energetic universe. Einstein told us that years ago. So it's established. So ideally, each one of us is plugged into this never-ending source of energy.
Yeah.
And we do that by meditation, by prayer, by exercising, by laughing, by opening our hearts, by healing things, traumas. When we do all those things, you go for a walk in nature, you swim in some natural ocean or lake, you are reconnecting to that source of energy. It's why it feels so good. We feel good, we feel alive, we feel vibrant, we feel balanced. If we don't do that stuff, or we feel unable to for some reason, we are disconnect from ourselves, we also disconnect from our supply. So there is something called a narcissistic supply. Have you ever heard of that term?
Is that when the narcissist is using the victim for energy to like suck their energy?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's one of the reasons people call them energy vampires.
Yes.
So if I'm unable, if I am a light bulb and I need to shine and I need electricity, but I can't access the source, but you can, I can hook onto you to get my energy so that I can shine. But you dim and wobble because I need to shine.
And so I make you feel bad about yourself because as you feel bad about yourself, somehow I feel better about myself. But in energetic terms, I'm literally sucking the energy from you to me because in a sense, because we are only ever anything in relation to something else, right? No?
Maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
I have to think about that.
Okay, well, but let's say, I mean, I could be.
Well, Einstein did say it's all relative, so let's go with
yes. So like I'm cool, but I'm cool relative to you, right? So I have to be relative to something. So in order for me to feel like I am something, I'm smart. I have to feel smarter than something, and I feel smarter than you.
If it's the reason I was hesitating is that ideally, if you are tapped into your own source, there is no relativity.
You're so right.
That's why when you said it, I was like, oh, kind of, yes, but also no.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense because we are connected to divine energy. And so then we are everything.
Yes.
We are actually everything.
If you are smart, you're just smart.
Yes.
And unrelated to whether somebody else is less or more smart.
Yeah, you're so right. I think, you're right about that.
So energetically, what's happening when someone is mean to you is that they're getting something from you. And the interesting thing about toxic people in general is that they'll take any energy. Like, you know, when they say no publicity is bad publicity, no attention is bad attention.
And tell me, what about more subtle forms of toxicity? So narcissists, I feel like a very obvious kind of example, but are there ways that somebody may not be necessarily a narcissist, but they're just being mean to you? Is that possible?
Well, then you are triggering something for them.
Okay.
You're eliciting some sort of response. Being mean to someone is a form of attack, right? Which means we only attack when we feel
threatened.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So then you need to ask what's happening. And obviously we can't know truth for anyone else. That's why I keep wanting to circle back to the power is inside you.
Okay.
You hold the power always. You have the power to say yes or to say no. You're the only one who can know, I like this, I don't like that. You're the only one who can say, this lights me up or this depletes me.
Yeah.
You're the only one who knows your history, your family, how you grew up, what your secret hopes and dreams are, how it feels to be in your body. There is only one world expert on you, and that is you.
Yeah.
And so to turn your attention or to ask anybody else to give you input on what you should do, shouldn't do, how it should feel, what's right for you, is giving away your power.
Right.
And it's ignoring the only world expert on this one topic. And obviously you do want other people's input and advice. I mean, I often will ask people, what do you think? But I am, at the end of the day, the one who decides for me.
So what can we do?
When you find yourself in any situation where you have a decision to make, or something feels uncomfortable, something feels off, you're not sure about this friend, you're not sure about that comment they just made, there's discomfort. First of all, discomfort is a massive gift. It's not something we're taught. Discomfort is your body responding. Discomfort is your autonomic nervous system going, excuse me, hello, pay attention. And what do we normally do when we're uncomfortable? We try and make it go away in all sorts of ways. Either we'll leave the situation, which sometimes is a good thing, but sometimes we'll like scroll on our phone, or we'll eat stuff that we shouldn't eat, or we'll binge watch series, or we'll work much more, or we'll do stuff that we regret later because we're trying to avoid the discomfort.
Yeah.
But discomfort is your system telling you to listen.
Yeah.
So don't override it. So when you find yourself uncomfortable, pause, acknowledge the discomfort, and then ask this very beautiful question. And that is this: if I loved myself, what would I choose to do now? If I loved myself, in other words, if I was my best friend looking at me compassionately in this situation, what would my best friend guide me to do? If I really loved myself the way I love my child or my dog or my partner or my whoever, what would I say to myself now, and what would I choose to do now? So for you, for example, in those situations where you didn't feel comfortable or something felt off, if in that moment you had said, okay, hang on, let me pause. I'm uncomfortable. I'm acknowledging it. Yay me for listening to my system. So now my system's trying to warn me about something. So if I loved myself, what would I choose to do now?
If I loved myself, what would I choose to do? What I want to do is I want to ask the person, why did you say that? But that also feels very vulnerable, especially when someone is saying it as a joke. And then suddenly you feel like you are making it serious when it was just a joke. It was just a joke. It was just a joke. And why are you being all weird about it and making it serious? So I feel like what I would have wanted to do at that point is to say, what do you mean by that? Or why do you say that? But I feel like as soon as I say that, it's going to shift that dynamic from being jokes to, ooh.
Two,
You took
we're
it
back to
seriously.
intimacy.
Yeah.
Because that is intimate.
Yes.
You're now showing someone
that I felt bad.
Yeah, you're showing something about yourself.
Yeah.
So you're shifting that moment from to intimate.
Yeah.
I want to let you know that even though it looks like you meant that as a joke, it actually was quite hurtful for me. But again, you're looking for patterns. If you immediately do that and you do it every time with everyone, people were going to say that you're a bit difficult or sensitive. But if with the same person or the same group of friends, this is also really important because the people who are listening might have a group of friends that they're not feeling comfortable with. Sometimes a group will pick on someone or shame one person. So we're back to the dancing, we're back to all of the thing. If you consistently are not feeling good, you can then say, listen, I'm not sure if you mean it as a joke, as just a joke, but I just have to tell you that that was hurtful to me. And also last week when you said that thing, and then, last year, the first time we met, you said that thing. And actually, I don't really find it funny. Would you please not do that anymore? And again, here's the test. If the person is, I'm so sorry, I never meant to, I'll make every effort, please let me know if I say things that are offensive, I'll make every effort not to. That's a potentially very good friendship. But if they say, oh, you're so sensitive, can't you take a joke, what's wrong with you, oh, you're so heavy, that's a red flag. So again, coming back to the tango, if you are saying mean things to me and I don't like it, but I don't say anything, then I'm continuing to dance a tango that's making me unhappy.
You know what's like difficult for me personally is that I think in that moment, and I'm sure it happens to other people, in that moment I get like so like shell shocked because it's like an affront to my nervous system. And then I have no words. Can I practice? How do I practice this?
There's different things that you can do. So first of all, if somebody asks you something and you don't want to and you don't know what to say, a beautiful thing to say is, I need to get back to you about that. I need to think about it, or I need to check my calendar, or I need to go to the bathroom and I'll get back to you on that. So that buys you time to let your autonomic nervous system, which is what you're talking about, happens. That fright is your nervous system saying to you, danger, 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 pay attention. So you step away and you give your system time to settle, because the other thing is that when your nervous system goes online, your frontal cortex, which is the part of you that can think and plan and come up with clever answers, it actually shuts down, because it's your primal brain that takes over to get you out of the danger. And so there's no time for analyzing things. If a truck is coming, you don't want to be analyzing. You want to get out the way. So in that time, you can't actually think, which is what explains.
Which is why I always have the clever answers the next day.
Exactly. So there's two parts. One is get yourself out of the situation or buy yourself some time. I will get back to you tomorrow. I need some time to think. And those are very acceptable things, like, oh, that's an interesting request. I need to check some things and I'll get back to you about it tomorrow. Then you've bought yourself time. But the other thing is that if you didn't do that, there's a beautiful key that allows you to reopen a conversation anytime. And that is to come to someone and say, I was thinking about that comment you made 3 years ago. Boom, it's open. As soon as you say, I was thinking about what happened yesterday. Can you see that the topic is immediately available and ready? I was thinking about that time when we were kids 20 years ago.
I don't remember that. It was so long ago.
It was so long ago. Well, but then I would tell you, but the conversation is now open. So you could come back to that person who's hurt you and say, I was thinking about what happened last Friday. And I wanted to let you know that even though it seemed like you were joking, I actually felt quite stung by that. And then you wait to see what they do with that. But if you don't say something, then you are dancing the tango, my friend. Sometimes our task is to learn how to stop dancing the tango when we no longer want to dance the tango. And then someone who demands a tango is actually a very helpful teacher for us. Like if you need to set boundaries, then having a friend who transgresses your boundaries is actually a teacher for you. It's like a coach. It's like a personal training for learning how to set a boundary. Or if you need to work on speaking your mind, or walking away, or changing the relationship by saying, I prefer to be spoken to with kindness and respect. Could this and this didn't feel respectful to me. Can we do it differently from now on?
So are you telling me that it sounds like friendships that maybe hurt us or break us are actually the friendships that might be teaching us to listen to ourselves more and trust ourselves?
Yes.
Yeah, I wonder if it's that, or if it's just like a nice story that I tell myself to be like, oh, well, I mean, at least it's a nice learning opportunity. But actually, like, the real thing is like, hey, why did you get into that relationship, and why did you stay so long until you got hurt?
And hey, why do I have 5 people like this in my life?
Yes.
But that's your learning. The common denominator is you. So if the lesson is to set boundaries, then you need to learn to set boundaries, which means to slowly either change those relationships or leave them. That will be the learning. So it's not, oh, this person must be teaching me a lesson and therefore I should stay and continue this dynamic that's hurting me. No, it's, oh, this person's here to teach me a lesson to help me overcome dynamics that are hurting me so I no longer attract them or participate in them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I want to close by asking you about yourself.
Okay.
So how did you, so you're all about self-loving decisions and how to love ourselves better. And I want to know how you came to this conclusion that it all starts and ends with loving yourself.
Well, again, I come back to loving yourself is meeting your needs. And I think in my childhood, I watched my mom not look after herself, and it didn't bode well for any of us. And I remember really wishing that she could stand up for herself and look after herself in the way that she needed, because it would make me as a little person feel safer in the world.
Yeah.
Because when you see your parents not being able to do it, it makes you feel very unsafe. And so I think, in a way, you go out to try and heal your own wounding by helping other people. I definitely have healed much of that now, but it's where I learned that loving yourself or looking after yourself is the least selfish thing that you can do, because it really does help everybody around you. If you don't listen to yourself, if you participate in dynamics that are hurtful, they also hurt the other person who's involved in it with you. But when you stop it, everybody grows, everybody benefits, everyone is safer.
Is that something you learned, or did you come to that conclusion yourself?
Which part of it?
Well, about how loving yourself is safer for everyone around you and is like the better thing to do. I'm curious to know, how did you come to that? Because it's so counter. And I don't know if is that something they teach in psychology school? I don't know.
Well, I mean, I suppose maybe sometimes in a way. I've been working with people for almost 30 years now. And I have watched people neglect themselves, override themselves, not listen to their truth. And it never goes well for anybody.
Yeah.
Unhappy moms have unhappy children.
Yeah.
Unhappy teachers have unhappy students. Unhappy bosses have unhappy employees. Nobody's ever happy around someone who's not looking after themselves to the point where they feel resentful and unhappy. So it makes sense that if you look after yourself, you're benefiting the community. And it's interesting because in my courses where I teach healthcare practitioners how to make self-loving decisions, and I have CPD courses on that, I work with a lot of different culture groups, right? And there are a lot of culture groups in South Africa and in many other places, but here especially that I'm more familiar with, where it's really not okay to use the word I or me.
Yeah.
It's we, it's us. And this concept of loving yourself feels like you are betraying your culture, you're betraying your family, you're betraying your community. And what's absolutely fascinating is that as we go through the course, I have a YouTube video where I interviewed one of the women. She's a isiXhosa woman, and she speaks about the journey she went on inside of herself of meeting this loving yourself concept, where she felt like she was betraying her culture, and where she came to the side of, but wait a minute, I'm not betraying my community, I am the community. Because I think in a lot of ways, like the Western white culture is known to be much more individualistic, and this whole like, oh, I love myself. And as a white woman here, I am preaching it. But it's not just that. It's not meeting your real needs. It's helping you to do the addiction thing, which is to try and meet your needs and make yourself feel better by using an external thing, rather than the real place, which is plugging into the energy that exists there. So the energy that exists for everybody.
Yes. Yeah, that makes so much sense. Thank you so much, Eilat. That was wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks for listening today. I hope you found today's episode insightful and inspiring. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. Subscribing helps a new podcast like ours immensely. And until next time, don't be a sheep, keep questioning, stay curious, and never stop exploring the extraordinary.